Hello, everybody. This is Two Queries in a Truck, and it is February 9th, the second Wednesday of the month already. I was listening to a little Under Pressure by Queen and David Bowie, two queer icons in many ways.
Yeah.
For especially for people that are genderqueer, David Bowie's performances, he presented in more of a femme or gender bending deal in concerts and roles and movies and all kinds of other stuff. Other than, of course, Queen. I mean,
yeah,
just the ultimate queer icon band. I mean, especially in the '80s and maybe even early '90s, with classic music, including that one. And but anyway. A lot of people are under pressure right now, including our friend Joe Rogan. So we have a lot to talk about. How are you doing, Christian?
Good, Jenny. I'm actually at a rally right now. You can see me. There's Joe Rogan fans saying they want their Rogan. They want their Joe. So that's where I'm at right now. If you're watching us on our video podcast, you can see the people behind me with their signs saying Free Cuba. Oh,
yeah. And I want my MTV too. But anyway,
that's right.
Got a lot of throwback stuff in just the first few minutes. But anyway,
exactly.
We do have our first topic of the day. We do 6 topics and in 6-minute segments, and we try to keep this rolling and funny and so forth. So the first one is 1887 is coming back to bite us in the Electoral College ass. The Senate is opening up a forum to relook at the Electoral College and how it works, and is trying to rework that law that was created in 1887. That really, the Electoral College and the creation of it and the enactment of it really started the Jim Crow era. And so one of the things they're looking at is basically how unfair it is. And also, too, there's some codicils in there that are very vague. There were compromised decisions and wording that is very problematic and could open the door for some dangerous territories in 2024. And it's one of the reasons they're looking at it. And it's a bipartisan effort. So there is an equal amount of Republican senators and Democrat senators that are going, this is problematic for both parties and for democracy in general. So, very interesting topic. It was a Twitter topic today, and then I saw it on several news feeds. So it's kind of gaining some traction.
So that's something that's led by Joe Manchin, right?
Joe Manchin is part of it. So he's not
okay.
One. There's several high-profile senators that are involved with it, but essentially one of the concerns is a scenario could play out similar to 2020's election, but kind of different. So. We'll use Georgia as an example. Let's say that the current governor wins re-election in 2022. And then the House presides over the counting of the Electoral College delegates. The House has the power. Let's say that the Republicans take back the House. McCarthy's the Speaker of the House. They can suspend delegates from any state. Therein lies an issue. Like if there's a controversy in the state of Georgia says there's a controversy with this, they can appoint, say the Democrats won it.
Yeah.
They can turn around, and if they can prove that they can get the Speaker of the House to investigate it and reappoint delegates, and they can reappoint Republican delegates. And so there's a codicil in there that allows for this in certain situations.
So they're basically preparing for 2024.
Correct. So
that's good. Yeah.
And especially in an election year, like it is now, that the midterms, it's important to look at it now rather than trying to do it in the
definitely
election. So this is really just for the presidential election.
So Jenny, all I want to know is, should us Queens support this or not? Break it down for us.
I think the Electoral College is outdated, so I personally see a winner takes all majority votes win. Yeah, just like we do on every other election that we have.
Exactly.
I would love to see it deleted, but if it's not deleted, at least modified to where it makes sense. So considering
and that's what they're trying to do,
based in an era of extreme racism, more so than even now, and was, again, we talked about in the earlier show about the origins of the filibuster and the Electoral College. It was really based on racism and white supremacy and giving a white Southern states disproportionate power to affect laws.
So this could be an opportunity. This could be an opportunity for Mary Manchin. That's my new name for him, Mary Manchin. For Mary Manchin to redeem herself because of, I mean, you think that was, okay, well, you know, we talk about redemption. I do have a new nickname, and I know you hate this because it's kind of Trumpish, but I do have a nickname for cinema. So I'll tell you. I don't know if you want me to. Her new name is Shitty Cinema. So
it sounds like a bad ice cream flavor for Shitty Cinema. In like cinema,
exactly. Okay, sorry, I had to throw that in there.
Values. So
speaking of being queen, so on our first show, Coffee and Pandusi, I was drinking coffee. This show, I'm drinking coffee and my beverage, and I put my straw in my coffee for this show.
I
don't
want to mess up your lips. For people that are listening to this on an audio podcast, they're gonna really.
That's right.
For people,
they're like, "What the hell?"
Doesn't look like Christian's wearing lipstick, but either way, it's pretty freaking funny. Not gonna lie. But we're probably about 40 seconds left, and this topic really was about as flat as a board. So we'll cancel this deal, and we will start the next topic because it's dying on the vine faster than Joe Rogan at an NAACP convention. Anyway, so Lady Dan Patrick, the Texas Lieutenant Governor, told Lena Hidalgo, a Harris County judge, to basically shut the fuck up and sit down. Except about the fuck. I threw the fuck in there. And it was over the shooting of a law enforcement officer, Corporal Charles Galloway. And I guess she was saying something about it or weighing in on it, just talking about it in general to the press. And I guess Lady Dan just, in his whole performative way, just it's not the first time he's told her to shut up. Okay. And one, I mean, it's so unladylike of him. But we all know how Patrick really is. The fact that he only has one campaign donor is a huge religious group. Second thing is that Dan Patrick's name is not really Dan Patrick's name. So he took on a stage name and made it permanent. Yeah. He actually has a name, and he's not a native Texan on top of that.
Of course, no. Him, brief factoid. Him and the Attorney General, Lady Paxton,
right?
They're both not native Texans. They're both carpetbaggers who moved to Texas and have tried to take on this Texas personality. You can go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's just unreal that you would tell a county judge, especially Harris County, which is the county that Houston's in, which is the largest city in Texas. So she's got a power position. Yeah. And, maybe she's not lieutenant governor, but in many ways, she may be more powerful. And I mean, all he does is oversee the Senate, and they only meet every other year, so Texas Congress doesn't meet every year. So, he's almost useless. He's almost obsolete. Yeah. Other than runs his mouth.
So what do you, Jenny, I know I've asked you this before, and you've kind of pushed back on me for saying this, but since this is the two queers part, when do you think women, specifically white women, not just because I don't know if this is a white woman or not, but just women.
No, her last name.
When will they? She's Latinx. When do you think women will stop putting up with these drama queen white Republican men who try to put them in their place? But when do you think they will start replying back to them with the same type of, what'd she say?
So she clapped back. I didn't actually write down what she said. Okay. She did take exception to it. I think a better example would be a Republican man clapping back at a Republican woman. And I think, because she's a Democrat. So,
Sure. No. Yeah.
In fact, I think almost all Harris County judges are actually Democrats.
Yes, they are. Uh-huh.
And so there's a huge difference there. But
I get, yeah, I guess what I'm saying, Jenny, is, people like Dan Patrick, they love to go after weak people. And it seems to be always women. And Trump is like that too. He loves to go after women specifically. I don't know why he loves to kind of put women in this place. I would love for one of the women to reply back. Like someone like Anna Navarro would probably say it. But I would love for some women to say, listen, little hands. I mean, because there's certain things that guys don't like to hear.
But I also think, and I'll use a current example, like Jen Psaki or an AOC, when misogynistic things get said towards them or indicated towards them, or they get questioned, specifically because they are a woman, and in a lot of misogynized women are second-class citizens.
Yeah.
A lot of times, I know with Jen Psaki especially, she has an ability of turning a phrase and using amazing wit, because feminine minds are definitely more complex than masculine minds. And when you have the lack of wordsmithing like Lady Dan Patrick, to have her emotional response of just sit down and shut up. Oh, that's exceptionally Christian and articulate of you,
Yeah.
And so a lot of times their responses are actually always almost 99% of the time way more brilliant. And we've seen AOC handle criticism from Republican men and chauvinist men in such classic ways that they don't know, because they're too dumb, like a Joe Rogan, for example. They don't know when they've been had, but the rest of them do. And
well, that's kind of what I'm talking about, because these guys that are saying these things are like the loudmouth drunk guy at the bar, and every once in a while you've got to have a lady or woman or someone put them in their place where all the other guys go, God finally said something to that dick. It's just like, so I hope that people start putting someone like Dan Patrick in his place, because surely he understands that most people think he's really a drag queen. So,
well, and I also think, and it depends. I think somebody like, for example, like she's a sitting judge.
Yeah.
I think there's a code of conduct, and it is really a situation where, unlike another office holder like a state senator or state House of Representatives, I do believe probably in a situation where, being in the law field, in the legal field, in the justice system, she may be bound by certain etiquette. There's a lot of things that judges can't respond to or talk about. That say a run-of-the-mill mayor or somebody that is not in the legal system can't respond to. So it could be something that she may not be able to respond the same way an AOC can too. So I do know that from politics, that they are politically bound to hold certain opinions to themselves, no matter how bad they want to respond. And that's not because she's a woman. It's just a code of ethics and a bar association thing as well. We're moving on, and I ignored your misogyny too. But anyway, so there is a blogger named Matt Walsh, that is a conservative idiot, and he tried to trick hey
Jen, didn't mean to bother you, but I think we need to take
we do need to take a little slight break before I go into this deep dive. So we're going to take a slight break, and we'll be right back with Matt Walsh. So join us next week at 15 minutes after Coffee and Pandosians, and we'll be dropping another episode of Two Queers and a Track. And there is no telling what we're going to talk about. That's the whole fun.
Woo-hoo!
We kind of fly without any kind of course or navigational deal. Thanks for watching. Have a good
one. Bye, y'all.
And we are back. So there is a blogger named Matt Walsh that's a pretty renowned conservative and very problematic. Actually worse than Joe Rogan in many ways. He tried to trick a transgender activist and advocate and educator named Eli Ehrlich. And Eli is somebody that I follow on several platforms. Is a phenomenal transgender representative. Very proud to associate with a person like that. And they created this fake documentary project called the Gender Unity Project. They tried to lure Eli to fake movie sets and all that. Now, obviously, Eli is a very accomplished person, and they understood that it seemed a little off and started doing some investigations and then started searching corporate papers to see what the entity. And of course, the person that approached Eli via email was not Matt Walsh, but was a person using a fake name. And then Eli figured out that they switched their middle name to their first name in these emails and realized that it was Matt Walsh's on-air assistant and literally busted them and is put it on Twitter out there into the Twitter land. And Eli has a tremendous amount of followers. And so tons of trans people weighed in on Twitter land and on Eli's page, thanking Eli for bringing this to their attention.
So they wouldn't be fooled either, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, because I mean, this is all as dangerous as many fake porn directors luring trans people to different shoot sites and end up either getting killed or raped or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no telling what Matt Walsh and the unhinged Republicans are capable of. And why would you create a situation like that? Because unless you're intending on really harming somebody and they're going to get out of that situation, it was going to be talked about. And Eli has such a high profile on Twitter. Where did they think they were going to go with us? So it just shows the desperation of the current conservative Republican mindset, in my opinion.
Well,
I mean, to lure you or I to a situation.
Well, but I'm glad that the person brought attention to that, and I think it does make all of us, how they tell elderly people, be careful of scams, be careful of scams. They're very easily scammed. You have to do your sixth sense. You have to do your research before you talk to someone who says, I want to interview you for this. Find out who it is. Do those kind of questions because we are in a climate where people want to spread misinformation, and they could be, they're just looking for something to distract people, even though the most pedophiles are white, cis, or I don't know if white, cis men, white cis men are the most pedophiles. Yeah. There's this
conservative, typically straight, and typically married.
Exactly.
The FBI.
But they will pick on one 19-year-old boy who maybe had a relationship with a 17-year-old boy and they were gay, and they would see gay people are pedophiles, and they will punch on that and punch on, and they say it enough. There are people, luckily now with social media, we can share this information, but there are, this thing about gay people are pedophiles, gay people want to have, all this kind of whatever, just within the bathroom bill era, year and a half, 2 years that it was actually on the books. I don't know. It was like once a month we were hearing about how some Baptist minister was being arrested for having sex with a minor, or someone being arrested for having child pornography on their computer. And it was just like, why am I afraid of transgender people or gay people in bathrooms? I'm afraid of you in the bathroom. So, but once they get one of those things, they'll spread it. So yeah, I'm glad that was good news, I guess.
So one of the reasons that Dan Patrick changed his names is that during the 1980s, he had checked himself into a mental hospital.
Yeah, I heard that.
And in fact, he hit new lows of actually having to be watched 24 hours a day at one point during one of his stays, and had acute anxiety and major depression. At one point, needed sitters around the clock. And even the quotes in his file said, "Last night I did a foolish day. I attempted suicide," which I'm not going to berate him for mental health, but I think when you're hiding from your past and you change your name to be able to do stuff like that, you have to really question, especially a guy that is tried to live high on the high horse,
exactly,
and trans people, people of color, attack. He was part of the big movement. In fact, he insisted on the Senate creating a bathroom bill mimicking the North Carolina one in 2017, which did pass the Senate. He made sure it passed the Senate. He strong-armed senators to get behind it, Republican senators, and of course they all hold the edge. I think at that time 18-13. Did not pass the House. It never even reached the floor of the House because the House of Representatives never let it out of committee. And he was also a Republican, but he was a common sense Republican that not only had a transgender family member, and he quote unquote said at the time, "I'm not going to have the blood of transgender people on my hands." So at least at that point in time, there was a Republican that had common sense in Texas. So moving on, Ken Paxton,
Lady Paxton,
the news, Lady Paxton. So I call this segment "You Can't Handle the Truth," y'all. So Ken Paxton finally released his donor list, and so he'd been hiding it, and he was forced to release the deal, just like Trump's taxes. And come to find out, he's supported by a PAC. The number one donor is a PAC group that's a Republican Attorney General group, nationwide group, that contributes to his campaign. So he explains why he's always suing other states. He's doing their bidding and not really serving Texas, but he's constantly suing Biden and other state governors that are Democrats and all kinds of other crazy things as well. And just it's been off the rails, and really, you talk about somebody that needs to lose their job more than even.
He's crazy.
But Ken Paxton's a little bit worse. And Texas has been on the news a lot this week. There's been a lot of one good thing, but a lot of bad things. So it's just when you're talking about state government in Texas, and especially the executive branch, like Paxton and the lieutenant governor and the governor, I mean, they literally every week you pick up a headline and just go, "Oh my gosh, those are the people running the state of Texas government." But I think you had a story about Ken Paxton as well.
Yeah, I don't think I've even told you this story before. Before we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. We lived in Texas, in Plano, Texas. And I had opened up a hotel in Allen, Texas, a Marriott hotel. And Ken Paxton at that time was a state senator in McKinney, Texas, which is north of the city north of Plano in Allen. It's kind of a little small city. Well, that city had passed an ordinance to something about fluoride in the drinking water. And they felt like fluoride in the drinking water was like the devil's work. And, it was causing all this crazy. Well, fluoride's been in drinking water forever. Right. But Ken Paxton and his wife were part of this big movement. They had founded this church in Frisco, Texas, which is next to there. They founded this mega church, and they were very, religious and so forth. And so they were pushing this movement. Well, it got passed, but it never really took anywhere. So at that time, I did a little bit of investigation because that was the first time I ever started to get involved in like my local politics. Turns out that Ken Paxton's wife's best friend owned a store that sold treated water. We started a website, an anonymous website that was since exposing that. And he was a state senator at the time. Well, I was really nervous because I was afraid, the Christians were going to come after us and so forth. And so we exposed that. This is like 2009, 2010. I remember this. Okay. So Ken Paxton's, he had a fundraiser at my hotel. And of course, I know that it was like a year after we did this. I did not combine my personal political views with my professional responsibility, but you can't. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching us on Two Queers in a Truck. Don't forget, you can watch us anytime at your leisure on our video podcast platforms like Facebook and YouTube, but you can also listen to us either this show or any of our past shows on our audio podcast platforms like Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and all of the other ones. So once again, thank you for watching Two Chords in a Truck. I hope you enjoy our show. All right, here we go. We're back.
We are back. We are back. A little technical difficulty that happens from time to time when we do an internet podcast. But anyway,
that's right.
So awkward photo, basically photo moments for two Republicans, and a really awkward photo when I put Waffle House in the Twitter world. It pulled up an interesting photo in an article of a Toronto waffle. It's not called a Waffle House, but it is basically a Waffle House, but the Toronto, Canada.
Okay,
Toronto,
like their version
of it.
Okay.
And so the first two are two Republican senatorial candidates. Both Ted Budd and Mark Walker posted this week two really awkward campaign / restaurant posts. First one, Mark Walker, they got so
I saw that.
blasted, he pulled it down.
Yes.
But not before people screenshotted it or forwarded it or whatever. And and have been just throwing him an absolute amount of shade because he's trying to be kind of urban and cool.
Yeah.
But he's an awkward white guy wearing a suit in a Waffle House.
Exactly.
It's a suit, but a full-blown suit and tie, a very Brooks Brothers, very conservative. And with the title, I'm not a Washington elitist. You know, the whole, I'm an outsider.
Exactly.
The second one is Ted Budd posing in front of a Bojangles, a local chicken chain, fried chicken place in Rowan County with the Rowan sheriff that he's definitely got a very conservative white supremacist look. Posing in front of this place, and it's a very awkward. I don't know which one wins the most awkward photo. They're both very white, very non-urban. No pictures or even people in the background full of color, and just you're just like going. I guess they just don't realize how white and out of date they look. Also, I'm going to throw in there for the mixing comment on both. Toronto, when I Googled or Twitter Googled Waffle House, about 3 or 4 articles down is this story. I don't even know how old it was, but there's a Toronto waffle-based company called Members Only. Now, the best part is all of their waffles are shaped like penises. And on top of this, they are called the VI ... P.
Oh my goodness!
Menu item. So a place called Members Only. That one made me giggle a whole lot. One because we're our name is Two Queers in a Truck. And, and only in Canada. The place to get burned down in the United States, especially if but in Toronto, Canada, Canada and especially Toronto itself is very urban, very progressive.
Yes. Very progressive. It's like almost it feels like the United States when you go there.
And these different penis-shaped waffles, it just cracks me up. It just like all within a few articles of each other. The awkward Republican looking kind of like a penis sitting out of place, and then a waffle place that just has awkward penises shaped waffles. So it's pretty hilarious. What do you think about all 3 of those photo ops?
So Jenny, when I saw that article about the pushback with the first one where he posted the Waffle House, I thought to myself, I can see how that happened. He was just hungry, and he went across to eat at the Waffle House, and he was in his suit, his jacket off, had a tie and everything, and just went across the street. And then in his genius or ungenius mind, made the decision, how can I turn this into I'm not a beltway guy, I'm not an elitist, I'm just an everyday farmer kind of guy. I'm going to take a picture of me at the Waffle House. This is an example of a 4-year-old white guy or 50-year-old white guy trying to be the same as a TikTok social teen. And he thought he would turn it into a social trending thing by taking a picture of his food. Another problem he had is when he took the picture, it wasn't a traditional Waffle House food. It was like eggs not over easy. That's something that like an elitist would order, and it was
There's
not
no
grits.
waffles.
It was like yes,
no
exactly.
Waffles in the photo.
There was no waffles.
That's the other reason he got skewered. Is it what kind of urban trendy person would go to the Waffle House, do a photo op there,
and no grits?
This is why political candidates should not handle their own social media.
Exactly. That's exactly what I thought.
Where was his manager? Where was his campaign manager? We're gonna deep dive on this just a little bit more because we didn't get into the penis.
That's exactly what I thought. The conversations you and I have had today, I thought, who would let him? And then he had to backtrack it because people in his own party, because he was Mark Meadows, people were going to get, because they're having like this fight between the Republicans and their nomination or whatever. People in his own party, and probably even Governor McCrory's people that troll him were, you're an elitist, you're doing this. And so he had to delete it. Then he posted it again, a different version of it. But this was one of those things. It was a terrible idea. It was, I kikied.
I mean, and I saw somebody repost it that I follow here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
I looked at it and they showed what he wrote. And it's like, you literally look like the definition. So you're applying for a job that's going to be based in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
You're an elitist Republican wearing this pretty nice suit. Like it was not
exactly. It's not a country suit.
It wasn't like a Beto photo op where he's wearing blue jeans or even some slacks and a rolled up dress shirt, like rolled up sleeves and just kind of that working common man moment. It
wasn't one of those like seersucker suits, that Southern lawyers wear. It was.
He looked like he was the CEO of some company. And he was meeting an employee there real quick, and they were about to go to a big convention or
exactly.
Game. Like he looked like the definition of elitist, and how the disconnect of what they think they look like. There is no awareness whatsoever, which is probably going to be the tweet that knocks him out of the running. Like it.
Well, but don't you think, Jenny? Yeah, but don't you think, Jenny, it wasn't something, it was something that he was hungry and he went to go eat, and he decided in his own mind, he was going to turn, hey, this is he was trying to like market it and brand himself, because he also posted, I think, that tweet, we're not a campaign that raises a lot of money. We're like you folk, we're like, people are like, no, you're not like us.
I completely disagree. I truly believe it was a very staged thing.
Oh yeah, it was staged.
But him and his campaign,
they didn't think it.
I don't think they popped in there at all. I think they purposely said, "How do we make myself look more common?" Like you said.
Sure.
I just think it was a bad idea. It was a
terrible idea.
Bad as Rogan talking about people of color and then using the N-word. Like it's just that. I just think the modern conservative. Is so awkward on the Twitterscape and the social media, and they still think it's 1887, even 1987, and they just are that awkward. They just really are that awkward.
I agree.
They're that problematic. But anyway,
and that's why the only thing they do is things like what Ted Cruz does, and it's just be like attack people, because they can't. I mean, what else they can do?
I do think we need more penis-shaped waffles.
That's right.
Photo ops from problematic Republicans.
Okay. Excellent.
Our last topic is basically they're open for business down under. Crikey. Australia, for the first time in 2 years, is opening up their borders again to let visitors visit. So they're going to get back to some tourism. They've had a very successful vaccine rollout. They've really done a good job of social distancing. To visit, you do have to be fully vaxxed and compliant and
excellent
COVID. They're not going to let out any be a lot of Republicans that aren't going to be able to visit there. But they are open for business. So it was I wanted to end on a very positive note.
Sure.
But I am excited for Australia to open back up. I think it's a beautiful country with a beautiful, amazing people, and they did COVID right. They had less than I don't even think they got anywhere near even 1,000 deaths. They were very strict on quarantining, very strict on how you operated there, and it paid off.
They kicked that dick tennis player out.
Yeah, they never let him in. Like, he was like, "Well, I don't want to take the vaccine." They're like,
all right,
if you're number one in the world, we don't need you.
Exactly.
We don't need your foolishness. I love any country that takes a stand against Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
And that jerk tennis. Because it wasn't that long ago when Ted Cruz commented that I'm disappointed about your rules,
exactly,
your forced vaccine mandates, and I thought Australia was more like Texas, and of course that one territorial governor
who shot him down.
That we are nothing like y'all. We believe in science. We believe in medical safety. We believe in safety for citizens.
Did you see today or yesterday he did the same thing to the mayor of in Canada? He said the exact same thing. He tweeted something about, let's see what they feel like when their shelves are empty. And the mayor immediately replied back, our shelves are not empty. 90% of truck drivers actually are vaccinated. We got plenty of food. Almost like mind your own business. Worry about your. He didn't say this, but it was more like worry about your power lines in Texas. But once again, isn't it crazy how Ted Cruz is so worried about everything else but Texas?
Yeah,
I mean, that's just crazy. Well, I don't know. It's just me that gets that.
Well, I mean, he doesn't really like Texas, though. I mean,
I don't think he does either.
He's not liked in Texas. No. But he also does not like Texas. I mean, there is a reason why he's called Cancun Cruz, and it's not because he's like X. It's because
I thought it was
middle deadly ice storm. He bails out and goes on a family vacation and leaves his dog behind in a freezing house. Like what kind of dick does that? Of course, it's the same kind of dick that won't defend their own wife. So.
Well, I thought it was funny that people were reminding people he was actually born in Canada, and so it was like
right. Well,
that he's actually a Canadian.
and the crazy thing with Ted Cruz is how his political party, including his political opponent in 2016, ragged on Obama and said he was born in Kenya and born in all these other foreign countries.
Exactly.
Find out he was born in Hawaii. They proved it a million times, and they still just ragged on Obama. I just find it an irony. And again, I'll go back to anytime they're pointing the finger to something, saying, "Look at that! Look at." They are typically guilty of it. They're typically, as the old saying is, anytime you see one finger pointing that way, there's usually three pointing back at yourself, and you're projecting your own guilt.
Projecting.
Yeah, it's classic projecting. Like the Republican Party should be called the projection party.
Oh, that's good. Hey, that's a good line.
Yeah,
I'm gonna write that one down. Hey, good job, Jenny. I'm gonna write that one down.
Wait, that's a keeper. Write that one down. That's a sticky note.
Projection party.
I mean, and of course, what I think is so funny how they'll talk about certain authoritarian leaders, especially ones that are communist leaders, and crack on them about hating democracy, and the world, hating capitalism. But Republicans hate capitalism. They love government spending. They're authoritarian as hell. They don't believe in human rights or civil rights at all. Like, this is a party that is based on a mound of lies. It spends so much time lying and lying to themselves that someday I feel like that party's just going to collapse. I think the end is near for them as a political party.
Do you think, I know you've talked about this a lot and I've pushed back against you, but do you think between now and election of this year, the midterm elections for the Congress, I know that there's a lot of stuff coming out saying that, originally that the Republicans are going to take over the House and may have a chance to take over the Senate, but there's also data showing that Trump has done a really big damage to the Republicans, that his supporters don't trust it, so they may not come out to vote. And the Republicans are concerned that if Trump keeps talking, it would take the message away from their message about cancel culture and vaccinations and open schools. And so I wanted to keep talking. Do you think there's any way between now and the election that people like you and I can help educate people on how I would rather be, even though I'm not, I would rather be called a socialist, because I don't think it's a bad word, than a communist or a fascist.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to the fact that this political party has been an authoritarian party for a long time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think now people are starting to see it. I think we saw that in 2020 when he lost by 8 million votes, or almost 8 million votes. We saw in the middle of a pandemic with so many challenges that a record amount of people turned out to vote against him and his incompetence. And he's just like a typical developing nation with an authoritarian figure that, will come out with a little general uniform on and will spend so much time patting themselves on the back that they've got to have sores on their back from slapping themselves on the back, kind of like Fidel Castro did. How he'd come out in such a he'd just come out in that little military uniform and just prance around. And he's just like them. He's like his weird salute that he does, and just some awkward, weird things. The way he held the Bible next to that church, and he held it upside down, and just like it's. Speaking of that, we didn't get onto it on the last show, and we didn't talk about this, but just real quick as an aside, we talk about performative Trump moments. Sure. This last weekend, Trump had his own special Trump.
I heard about it.
The best part, and the hypocrisy of conservatives and Trump. So there was 19 PGA level players, and then Trump played in the tournament. He gave out 20 trophies, and we've always heard, we don't believe. Conservatives always said we don't believe in participation trophies.
Exactly.
Literally, the whole tournament was based on participation trophies.
When you said I think I saw that from you. I think you posted that.
Yes.
And when I saw that, I laughed so hard because it is the cis white conservative Trump supporter male that about 10 years ago, that was their big thing about how millennials, that's all, everyone wins a ribbon, everyone wins a trophy. It's really them who, and I'm not saying that. Yeah, it's the GOP should be, what did you call it? The GOP should be called the projection party.
Yes, I guess literally, and I don't know how many times we have to do this in our society before we start looking at the GOP and go, the moment they say something like that, like, we don't believe in participation, we need to Google it. But moment like a Caitlyn Jenner that says, well, transgender women shouldn't play in women's events. And literally in 2018, she played in a women's event and hit from the ladies' tees in a competitive golf tournament in California. But
Jenny, don't you think that we could take a little? I'm a Democrat. I think you're a Democrat as well. Don't you think that we could take a little bit of lesson from them, like Dr. B said last week on our regular show? He talked about the. And I'm embarrassed to repeat what he said, but like the Hitler and what's his name, their thing is if you tell enough lies over and over and over and over, people believe it. The problem is the Republicans do it so much people believe it. We do it and then we go, I don't want to talk about it anymore because people can't believe it. And so do you think that we have to continually dispel it until people get so tired of it that it sinks in?
Well, I think the moment they tell us a big old whopper, it has to be addressed.
Yeah, okay.
In a way,
I see.
One is a Jen Psaki type of response, which basically is part dripping of really dry sarcasm and making fun of them in a certain way. That's not profanity laced or anything like that, but also
it's not arrogant like Trump's people
very quickly respond in a way that disproves what they just lied about. And this era of Google, you can just tell them, like, go to this website and it shows statistics on deaths, or it shows the statistics on whatever, how police officers died in 2020 or 2021. And so many of their lies are instantly disprovable and instantly refuted. We have to be better at responding and calling out hypocrisy, like we did with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's a great example of somebody that both got timely called out and people got tired of it, that they started picking him apart and going through his episodes and going, well, he used the N-word, 100 different times. And he's had some other problematic guests and some transphobic guests. And the more they peeled it back, but they immediately responded because of months of very obvious disinformation. Started with, that trash can football player from Green Bay. But being very specific and being very targeted, because I think people got to the point where we don't really dislike Joe Rogan because he's just kind of like the village idiot. But at the same time, he's now getting to a point of danger. He's misinforming people about a topic he clearly is not qualified to talk about, and has guests on that aren't qualified to talk about it either. And they're constantly lying about something that could lead to harm and death. And I think that's where
I know we're out of time. What was really disappointing about Joe Rogan is when this N-word stuff, even though we knew it was coming out, that artist, the lady that kind of dropped that video of him saying it 20-something times, she's from Atlanta. She said that the week before, but she posted the video of actually the actual things done before. What was upsetting is Joe Rogan is not stupid. Just like I know what I've said in the past, he knows he said those words. He had all that time to kind of diffuse it before. And then when it came out, he said, I had forgotten about I had said those words. No, you knew you said them. You were just
trying to claim the old that was taken out of context.
Exactly.
I'm gonna sit here right now and see if I was responding to him. Say we were running for the same office and he was a Republican. I was Democrat. The moment he says that's taken out of context, before he could get out the last words, I would butt in and say, any white person dropping an N-bomb is always going to be a racist.
Exactly.
The old saying that you like saying, listen to what they're saying and believe them. He's a racist. There is,
I agree.
And that's it. There's nothing else to say. If you constantly using the N-bomb and you're comfortable using the N-bomb on the air, as many times as he has, the context is you're a racist. Here's your side.
And then I don't know. And then trying to explain, well, when he said, if I was, we were dropped off in a black neighborhood and I tried to get out of there, like I was trying to get out of the Planet of the Apes. It's like, how, what? Right. And then he said, I was trying to be funny. I was just this.
But that's where you go back. And again, there's no context where racism is funny. And 400 years of oppression towards Black Americans, people of color, enough is enough. You can find another way to tell a joke. You could say,
and he's not funny.
You want to say a white trailer park in the South. You're like, that's funny because you're white. At least you're picking on your own people. But when you are picking on another group of people that you're not a part of, and dropping very racist references or the N-bomb, the context is accurate. You're racist. That's it. There is no, and that is basically what our side needs to keep repeating is no, you're not going to sidestep the reality. We're not going to talk about something else. Dude, you're a racist. You are just a racist.
And he's probably a dick.
I mean, first of all, when you are trying to mansplain or whatever you want to do about why you use the N-word, that just makes you look like a worse human being. Like you hit a new level of lows. Like instead of just saying, you know what, y'all are right. This is uncomfortable. I apologize. I will consent to Spotify taking those out of my podcast. I need to do better. And one of the ways I do better is I said it. It's proved I said it. Everybody heard. It's somebody researched it and then re-put it on the deal. There's no way around it. There is no justifiable context for saying racist comments, especially about Black Americans have suffered so much for the last 400 years. I need to do better. I need to do better for those 40 Black Republicans too. whatever he wants to say, all 40 of them,
Exactly.
the whopping 40, the half of a percent. But it is 2022.
Yeah.
All political candidates need to do better. Democrat, Republican.
I agree.
For the sake of our country, for the sake of sustainability in our society. New standards, please, Colin. And so Joe Rogan being a standard of podcasts is a lot like going into the dumpster dive and bring out some trash. It's just
there are some very good podcasts out there.
Yes,
like the show Coffee and Panduce.
Yeah,
our show's in the
truck. Great shameless plug. We need to end on that note.
Exactly.
We are well over time. And everybody have a great week.
Good show. Bye, y'all. Bye, Jenny.
Hey, folks, another great show in the can. Appreciate you guys watching and continue to support both of our shows. Appreciate that. We had over 28,000 views last month on our main show. And it's because of y'all that we're continuing to grow and get better at this. Thanks for watching.
Bye, Jen. Good show.